Hello and welcome to Confidently Wrong, a show by regular dudes talking with confidence about content we have no right to speak about with any kind of authority, but do it anyway. I'm Wesley Nakamura, and as always, I'm joined by award-winning director Ryan Redondo and Savon Jones, aka Captain Bonnie. This is episode 215, and we explore the galaxy with Ryan Gosling's latest movie, Project Hail Mary. I'm confident that it's going to be the best show you've ever listened to, and well, hey, if it's not, you can always ask us for a refund.
Incredible!
Hello, gentlemen! Welcome back. It's Confidently Wrong. Oh, I'm so excited for today's episode. I've been waiting for this movie for a long time. Savon, how you doing today?
I'm doing
Hoppers?
good, bro.
You're waiting for Hoppers for a long time?
We're not talking about Hoppers.
No.
But
I
do want to see it.
I watched the wrong movie.
I've heard good things about Hoppers though, so maybe we should check it out.
I'm doing good, Wes. I'm gonna be honest with you. I went and saw, the movie we're talking about. I saw it last night. Me and Tony went and made a little date night. Went and got ramen after.
I love ramen.
That was like, I know I'm kind of getting ahead of it, but like, man, I'm really excited to talk about it too, bro.
Oh, good. All right.
This was very much
I didn't know if it was gonna be your kind of movie.
So for context, before we get in, this was a like homework pod for me. Of like Wes said, we're watching it for the pod. I'll say, okay, sir, yes, sir. I'll do this homework for
He
the
said,
pod.
"Okay, I'll do it. I'll see it on the
I said,
last
how
possible day."
How high do I want to jump?
Yeah, I said, Tony, look, I want to go see the movie for the pod. You want to roll with me? Yeah. He's like, do you know what is it? Project Hail Mary. What do you know about it? Not a damn thing.
Nothing.
Have you seen the trailer? Maybe, but I think I was so disinterested that I didn't even retain what happened. I just know it's Ryan Gosling, maybe some space shit. That's the most I can tell you. Kendall told me it's the guy who wrote The Martian. Maybe that's relevant. Just to be clear, that is all I knew going into this.
Okay.
Nothing
So
else.
you didn't know very much.
This was a true blind. I just knew Ryan Gosling in space. Maybe.
Love it.
Other than that,
Well,
clean
I guess
slate
you could tell
movie.
the people what we're watching. Then you don't have to call it this movie. What are we watching, Sav?
Project Hail Mary, baby.
All right, Brian, how you
Ken
doing
doll
today?
in space.
Ken doll
I'm
in
good.
space. Nice, awesome. And Una's doing great.
She is here. She is behaving right now. She
Nice.
had
Is
she had
she
some
small
poops
enough to pick
on
up
our
and put on the
bedroom
screen.
rug earlier
Ooh.
this morning, which I didn't love.
No
I
good.
thought we were over that.
Straight
Yeah.
to jail.
Apparently not.
Little regression. Is she small enough to put on the hold up on the stream, or is she too big for
Sure.
that?
She's small enough, but I'm not gonna do it.
No, you're protecting her privacy.
No, I will not obey your orders.
I was asking. I
I'm a
didn't say you had to.
conscientious objector.
Okay. God, he takes everything into like people just telling him what to do like immediately.
Brian doesn't like authority.
No.
That's your friend. You should know that.
Brian, absolutely he hates it, but I was just asking if he could do it.
You shouldn't have asked.
No,
You
I
should
will
have
not do
begged.
that.
You should have. Please, oh Sir Master Brian, can we please see the old pupper?
Oh, to maintain his authority in the
You gotta come to
relationship.
my office with a fake newspaper headline of me on it that says "I saved the city," and then maybe I'll do it.
Treat it like the president. You got to massage his ego. You got to tell him what he want to hear.
All right.
An award.
I'll
Come
get
on.
you
Everyone's saying Brian's the greatest director.
I need a trophy.
the
I'll
Brian
give-
Redondo Greatest Director Award.
Is that why we have to open each episode by calling him award-winning director?
You don't say
Brian
that out loud. You don't
Redondo?
say it out loud. See, don't say the
Okay.
quiet part out loud. No, no.
Isn't that why I'm here?
All right, let's get into it. Project Hail Mary. This is pretty much going to be a full-on spoilers show, so as long as you're cool with that, keep on listening.
Go see the
Sav-
movie.
Sav, what's the kind of opening premise? Where are we when we first start the movie? And then we'll just kind of go through a little bit of the plot, and then we'll get into some characters as we go through what we liked about it.
Yeah, so the movie just opens up with like Ryan Gosling waking up in like what looks like been an induced coma. He looks shaggy. Not look shaggy. He is shaggy. His hair is extremely
It's
long
like
and
coming out of
unkempt.
cryo sleep,
His
basically.
beard, like he looks like he just, he's like he hasn't shaved in what feels like forever. He's confused. He's disoriented. There's an AI voice kind of saying, "Hey, you're gonna feel disoriented, confused, have memory loss," which is very important. So as this Ryan Gosling character wakes up, tries to realize where he is, what's going on, he looks around. He sees some dead bodies and tries to make sense of it. While he's making sense of all of this and the robot's kind of giving him like an update of what's happening, he finds a window, looks out, and realizes that he is in deep space. He starts to panic and realizes, okay, there's a sun. How far am I from home? And it's only after a few moments as his memory starts to come back that he realizes this is not the Earth's sun. He is impossibly far away from home, upon doing some calculations, I think he realizes that he's over 100 years from home.
11 light years away from home.
Yeah, they said 11 light years, but then they said the path back home
It's like
he'd be
116 years.
Yeah, but he said the way back home would be 116. So this character is essentially stranded in space. He doesn't know why. He's confused, and the other folks on the ship who are with him are dead. And so the movie starts off with him trying to just piece together, why the F am I in space and don't know why I am with these dead people? And then we get the story, and then we get
and they're all dressed as astronauts, so they're part of the crew. They weren't like invaders that just died.
These are like other crew members of the ship. Yeah. And so then we try to figure out what's going on, and that story gets intercut throughout with flashbacks to kind of explain how our character got to this point. Is that a fair kickoff where we at, Wes?
Absolutely. And I think it provides a nice impetus to the beginning of the movie of like, well, we're kind of with him on this journey of figuring out who he's there, because he's like, wait, why do I know this? Like, he knows.
Am I smart?
He knows some.
Am I smart? Am I supposed to be smart?
He knows like some mathematical things. He just doesn't remember like the details of like why he's there in this place. And then he goes on this full adventure trying to solve the problem, that he starts remembering what the problem actually was as the story goes on. So
and we get flashbacks to build out the problem too. It's a mix.
So we learn too.
We're learning along with.
Mm-hmm. And I was able to read the book a few years ago. So I like this author. Andy Weir wrote The Martian. He wrote this book called Artemis, and then he wrote Project Hail Mary. I don't know if he's written any other since then. All of them have this tied together of there's a one main character who is very clever, very smart, solves all of their problems through thinking through the problem and like figuring it out. So I don't know if you remember the Martian movie where it's like Matt Damon has to, what does he say? He has to like engineer the shit out of the thing or something like that. He basically has to, survive his way on the Martian landscape by himself with some resources, but he really MacGyvers it into these other things, and then uses the computer system to call home and does all these things, and eventually I feel like he makes it home at the end of the movie or something like that. Spoiler alert for The Martian. But great movie, kind of a great mix of humor and adventure and story, a little bit of character development for sure. And I think this movie and this book also hold true to some of that idea, right? Like, again, we've got a guy who's kind of smart, who can maybe figure his way through this problem using calculations or whatever, his knowledge and his expertise, and then throw in a bunch of like humor and silliness that kind of goes along with it. So I don't know.
I think a key element in The Martian is that I believe Mark Watley, who's played by Matt Damon, is a botanist or something like that in The Martian, right?
Oh yeah,
and so he's a very unlikely astronaut.
Gotcha.
NASA person to be in that situation. And similarly, as we learn in one of the very first flashbacks, that Ryan Gosling's character, Grace, last name Grace, I forget what his first name is a school teacher. He teaches middle school science.
Yeah.
He's Wesley. So of course, Wes loves this movie.
I love it.
It's about him. It's his like fantasy wet dream of him being in outer space.
Well, maybe not by myself. I wouldn't love that part.
I mean,
but the ability to
not
come
by yourself
through.
For long.
I mean, science teacher. Teacher, quirky, willing to be wrong in the face of everybody else being right. Memory issues. This is tracking.
Oh, true. This is me. I'm Ryan Gosling competing in the movie.
Yeah. Sometimes Wes turns and goes, "Am I smart?"
This is disturbingly. This is disturbingly accurate.
I really loved the humor. It like same wavelength as me. Most of the humor and the quips that were coming through in this movie. And then So, anyways, let's talk about kind of the beginning, maybe first half of the movie, things we liked about it. Ryan Gosling ends up. It turns out that Ryan Gosling is basically the entire movie. He shares screen time with two other main characters, but he's in every scene. This man is everywhere, omnipresent, and obviously, especially when you start off by yourself in space, you're literally the only thing happening here. And the ship is not really a character in the way that some other, like, sometimes the setting is the character, like Lost, right? Like the island was kind of a character. This is not really that. This is just him trying to figure things out. And I don't know, what did you think of Ryan Gosling, Brian? I got some interesting things to say, I feel like, about Ryan Gosling in this one.
He's Ken in space.
Yeah.
I mean, Ryan Gosling in this movie is so Ryan Gosling. Like he is at his peak self, for better or for worse. And that means like he like his character is meant to be, actually, I don't know. You can tell me if this is different from the book, Wes, but
Yeah.
like his character in this movie is pretty like hapless, kind of uh something of an idiot. Um, who doesn't believe in himself, but shrugs all of that off through humor and sarcasm, but in a schlocky kind of way, right? It's like nothing is mean spirited or anything, and it's very Ryan Gosling. It's very like Ken in Barbie. It is very whatever his character's name was in Fall Guy. He's sort of like this
The
charming,
himbo.
lovable bimbo doofus, right? Caught in the worst circumstances that you could possibly imagine, and the fate of the entire planet Earth, rests with him.
I would
And
disagree with this
so
characterization a little bit, but we'll see. Go ahead. Keep going.
I mean, yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. But for me, it was a lot of Ryan Gosling, like a lot, and like I agree. It's funny. It's like, haha, yeah, funny, but maybe a little too much. Could we get it down from 11 and go back to like 7?
All right. All right.
Maybe a little bit.
Sav, what
But
do you think
yeah,
of
it's
Gosling's role?
very much of a vehicle for him. This movie, right? There's like almost no other characters for most of the movie, um, and so like in scene, right? Like he's the actor in the scene carrying everything, and that's what I mean. Because obviously there is a very important character that he plays off of, but no actor present.
Sav, what did you think of Gosling's performance here,
I thought it was great.
especially the first half?
I thought it was great. I didn't really like. I don't have any strong hot takes about Ryan Gosling. Like, it's not like I've seen so many of his movies that I have like a strong opinion about him, positive or negative. But I mean, he was really, really good in this movie. I mean, I don't really have too much else to say. Like, this was a movie where, to Brian's point and your point, there aren't going to be a lot of other characters to bounce off of. So whoever that's going to be needs to be someone who can carry most of the movie by themselves. And I'm one of those folks where if that doesn't land or doesn't execute, I think it makes the whole movie fall apart.
Oh
Because
yeah,
there's
it's
just not
entirely
other
dependent on him.
things.
Yeah.
And another thing, which we'll talk about, right? But like, I thought Ryan Gosling was great. I think his character being this extremely intelligent. Like, keep in mind, I know he comes off as like he's dumb in like the ha kind of silly way, but he's an extremely intelligent person.
Right.
And I thought they did a great job of balancing that. Like, he's just kind of a guy in the sense that, yo, I'm just trying to work and teach my students and yada yada and make my little silly jokes. And like, they really sold me on like the everyman vibe that he had, but it didn't undermine that, oh, this dude is like clearly extremely intelligent and creative and a genius. Even when him and the guy Charles, played by Boy from Odd Future, are just, they go full kids playpen mode, and like, it's silly because he's just getting a bunch of shit from a Home Depot and joking around buying candy. But when he actually locked in, it's like, oh no, he's actually like, when he's locked in, he's actually
Yeah. He
really,
knows what
really,
he's doing.
he's in
Yeah.
his bag when he's cooking, despite the don't let the body language and demeanor and the school teacher part fool you. But I thought, all that to say, I thought he did a great job of portraying like someone who you clearly recognize as extremely intelligent, but also is kind of a goofball who doesn't take himself too seriously. And I think that the whole he doesn't take himself too seriously vibe just really, really vibed well with him being like a teacher of young children. And I was really sold on that in terms of just his personality, his mannerisms.
It's my entire teaching
even
persona,
yeah,
guys.
exactly. But like, but to your point, Wes, like that's really
Is
like,
that why you can't get a control of your classroom?
but that's
No,
how,
then I turn it on and it's like, oh no, like, oh.
Oh, the beast is back.
Yeah.
But the way they sold me on like his character being a goofy, smart but intelligent school teacher, the him willing to self-deprecate and not take himself too seriously, I'm like, this is how a lot of really good teachers are. They don't take themselves seriously because you need to be able to win children over, and you need to be approachable, amenable, and have good people skills and all of that. And I think that was a underrated trait that he had throughout the movie that actually was pretty consistent. And it works even better once we learn more about the backdrop of how he got on the ship in the first place.
Choo!
And it kind of feels it drives home those elements of the character in a way that's like, it makes him very, very human. This was a very realistic character, and I really enjoyed that. Even when things start going wrong, instead of saying dropping F-bombs, he's a teacher, so his instinct was to say fudge, 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 fudge. Like, even little moments like, I know it's not a rated R movie, but like, even little moments like that are like, there are goofy ass teachers who would absolutely do that. And yeah, I enjoyed the character. I thought Ryan Gosling did his job in this movie, and he had a very important job of being the main guy on screen 99%.
Kaya is trying to figure out curse words, so like she hears, she'll hear like shit or something like that every now and then. So she asks about it, like how, or she'll say it. She'll be like, "Damn." But I think maybe at school or something, she heard a teacher or somebody say biscuits, and so that sometimes that's her go-to curse words. Biscuits. I'm like, you can say biscuits. I like, it's good.
Nutter butters.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
That's a good one. No plausible connection to a curse word.
Okay, let me give Ryan Gosling some props here, because I think precisely because I am such a hater of Ryan Gosling in his movies. I didn't see La La Land.
Really?
Yeah.
What just hates on Ryan Gosling?
I hate on Ryan Gosling every time. Not every time I get a chance, but like, he just does not do it for me in any of his movies that I've seen. So I've seen him in The Notebook.
Are you hating on him because all the women love him?
Is it because he's pretty?
No, yes and no. Because not because he's pretty, because like not everyone, a lot of people sort of like him, and they think he's like a great actor or whatever, and they enjoy his movies. And then every time I go and see him in a movie, I'm like, he has no expression, he has no like character, like charisma, no personality. He's just this flat, like, okay, I'm doing this, like the one he did where like he was in love with like a robot or something. The one Notebook.
Lars and the Real Girl.
Yeah, in The Notebook, he was just kind of a flat, nothing character. In the driving
Crazy
movie,
Stupid Love.
In the driving movie,
Drive.
He was just kind of not stupid. He was just very flat, like he had no emotion. And I'm just like, why do we enjoy watching this guy do no acting on screen? Like, his only acting is like, I'm just gonna be like a pretty straight lace, like nothing matters, matter of fact, like da 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 da, and like that's it, like nonchalant character. And I'm like, I don't want to watch 2 hours of someone doing that when that's the only thing that they do, and like there's nobody else that they're really bouncing off of. It just didn't work. Like, he's just, whatever. And then even in Barbie, I thought like that was a, obviously more charismatic role, but he was such a like idiot, kind of person that like, I don't enjoy watching idiots just do idiot things like for that long. I don't know, maybe that's not true. I have seen some, Will Ferrell movies that I've enjoyed, where like Ron Burgundy, but I just didn't enjoy it necessarily, like, oh, like that's great acting or whatever, and really enjoyed his part in it. And this movie is the first movie where I've been like, and Fall Guy. Even Fall Guy, I was kind of like, you're fine, I guess, but like, I don't really care about your chemistry with Emily Blunt at all. And in this movie, I was like, this is like the best, most likable character I've ever seen you play. And I fully believe that you were this person, and it worked for the movie, and it worked with your interactions with Rocky, who we'll talk about in a minute, and his interactions with, I don't know the other lady's name, the director lady. And I don't know, props to him. I think this was the one where I was like, oh, I'm like, if this had been the movie I was introduced to Ryan Gosling as my first experience with him, I would be like, man, this guy's awesome. I love this guy. I'll go see his next movie. So shout out to Ryan Gosling. Props where props are due, I think, in terms of, I enjoyed the Ryan Gosling to the 11 here. It sounds like you didn't enjoy that as much, Brian, but
a lot of shtick. I
found it really endearing and fun and enjoyable, and kind of balanced out the like really serious nature of the gravity and stakes of what he was dealing with in space by himself. So I thought that was great. So I don't know.
Did it jive with his character in the book?
I think so. I mean, the problem is I read it 2 years ago, so like I don't remember every single detail.
Okay, never mind.
But yeah,
question stricken from the record.
But I think his general like tone and personality, I think that was generally right. I think they punched up a little bit of the like silliness, a little bit more than it was in the book. But he was very much a problem solver in the book. So maybe a little bit more like mission focused. But I mean, I think they did a good job of showing like every day he worked on the problem, right? So yeah. I enjoyed it. Ryan Gosling, well done. I really enjoyed the way his character is written for the movie, and it sounded like he had some input on that too. So cool for that. And then that takes us to our big surprise that I felt like they ruined it in the trailers. They show Rocky, the alien that he comes across in space, and in the book that was like such a big left field, out of nowhere, like, oh shit moment of like, what is going to happen here? Like, are you going to die like on this mission by yourself? Like, what threat are you under? And then it turned like they showed in the trailer that like he kind of says like, oh no, it's okay. Rocky's a good guy. Like or the alien's a good guy. I'm not going to be turned into goo. He was like that, that was a concern. So they gave that away in the trailer, and I was kind of annoyed. I was like, oh, in the book that was such a bigger like moment of realizing that Rocky is actually not a threat here. And it was okay in the movie, but they just spoiled it in the trailer that it ended up he wasn't a threat. So I felt like that took some teeth out of those moments. But anyways, Rocky is I don't know. Sav, who is Rocky, and what did you feel about him?
I had a lot of feelings about Rocky.
I love Rocky.
So going back to just something I always rant about on this podcast, I always hate when movies have aliens and the aliens are just like dudes.
Humanoid.
Yeah, just dudes.
Yeah.
Extra points if they go
two
full,
eyes, mouth, face.
If they're exotic, maybe they'll have, purple skin, but if they're real lazy, they'll just be like a white guy. Omni-Man. So,
nostrils. They'll adjust the nostrils maybe with makeup. That's about it.
Point is,
Omni-Man has a mustache.
Yeah, he's just literally a dude. The Viltrumites are literally just dudes.
Superman.
So I'm always very critical of that. If you're gonna give us humanoid, at least give him some horns or some purple skin or some shit, right? But I also recognize that when it comes to making these characters, especially the creative folks, audiences in a visual medium can struggle to connect with a character that they can't empathize with, right? So like not having a face, not looking humanoid. It's really hard to empathize for us as what we might perceive as like an inanimate object. And that's why, and that in budget is why most movies go with aliens that we can look to and immediately connect to. This movie did not shy away from that at all. And they said, no, Rocky is an effing alien. And we're not going to pull any punches on how alien he is. He don't look nothing like us. There's no common ground. We don't operate the same. Our biology's not similar. There was pretty much no real biological common ground between Grace and Rocky. And the movie didn't like shy away from that, which I think, one, that's very bold, because kind of like Ryan Gosling's character, Grace, if Rocky doesn't connect to the audience, this entire movie falls apart. And then it just
100%.
becomes, why is Ryan Gosling talking to this pet rock, and what is this shit in space?
Yeah,
it turns into that very quick.
Castaway talking to Wilson, basically, right?
Yeah. So to get you to empathize with a character who doesn't emote the same way we do, doesn't communicate the same way we do, doesn't look the same way we do, is really hard. But oh my God, they knocked it out the park.
They gave him some emotes. He kind of like tittered.
Yeah, but like
very
that's
human
hard
titters.
but that's hard to. Having him look a little cutesy is different than you being emotionally invested in his character and recognizing, Rocky's really, really smart and thoughtful and creative, not just like this little cutesy thing. And, you have to really make him invested too as a character. And they did a great job from their first contact to them figuring out communication to then when Rocky gets the little voice thing. And then you get to actually see Rocky's personality.
Amaze.
Yeah, and I'm like, but even some of the little things of like how there's still not clean translations for stuff, and how there's no tones for a rock making sounds for real. So if it's a question, he ends it by saying question. So say whether it's a declarative or what type of sentence it is. Like little shit like that. That's like, okay, they're still not on the same like operating system, but they still make it work. And I was completely bought in. Like, there were multiple times where I'm on the edge of my seat because I'm worried about Rocky. I'm worried when he's saving his life. I was so concerned that there were several points where I thought Rocky was going to die and I was going to lose my shit. Like, I was going to be like, yo, they bet not kill this man. When he had to activate the manual centrifuge and save Grace, or when he had to come out of the containment thing to save him and he looked like he was in a coma, and just I haven't seen a lot of movies sell me on a relationship between like a human character and like what essentially looks like an inanimate puppet object in a while. And for the whole movie to hinge on that and then for knock it out the park is like, I have to give them their accolades. And it's just really hard to do. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, I just, But also my other thing is, and this is why I love not knowing shit about movies sometimes, is that Rocky was completely a surprise to me. When I saw the other alien ship, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah,
And I
right?
thought maybe is it like another human civilization? Is it some time loop stuff where previous civilization humans came? I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Then I'm looking at the ship. I'm trying to analyze the ship's aesthetic to be like, what is their deal? Like,
What a
it
cool
looks-
design, right?
Yeah, even when they're looking, I'm like trying to figure out real time. Like me and Tony and Exeter, I'm like, okay, so he can do some kind of like 3D printing rock thing or something, and it's like we're trying to just figure out what their deal is. But oh my god, between the technology and also Rocky being how Rocky was an engineer and Grace was like more of a scientist. Like I thought they did that dynamic really well to sell how they're like a dynamic duo, not just species, but actually just different career fields. But man, I was surprised by Rocky. Did not know he was a thing in the slightest. I didn't think aliens were even going to be in this movie. I thought the aliens were the fuel thing. Like I thought that was the alien life of the movie. Like okay, that's cool. Then we see Rocky. I'm like, oh shit, we got like real aliens in this mug.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, he stole the show. Every moment that was he was makes it funny. He was serious. Him and Grace's friendship was great. I was sold on it. Every fake out death had me like not about to cry, but like I was like, yo, man, I can't emotionally take this. And so yeah, and the way I
Poor
see it
Rocky.
is that if they can get that emotional response out of me, they did their job. I
Jen,
was about to cry over Ryan Gosling's pet rock. And goddamn it, that means that the filmmakers did something right. They deserve the awards for how they did that.
For sure.
If Rocky had died at the end of this movie, oh my god, I think there would have been a riot.
Oh, I would have had to inflict violence on someone.
No, it's like if there was any sort of emotional core for this film, it's definitely not Ryan Gosling. It's Rocky, for sure, and it definitely like really paid off. The thing that I really appreciate about his design, or just like the idea of I forget the name of their species.
Iridians.
Iridians. The Iridians are.
Nice one.
How did I know that? I just pulled that out of my butt.
I was just like, dang.
They're sound-based rock beings, right? And so like he's sort of seeing the world through echolocation, and has echolocation type technology, right? Like he had that crystal that would look at the screens and translate it into something that was three-dimensional, so that Rocky could actually understand what was being looked at and expressed by the screen. The spaceship was made of like basically like guitar strings or something like that. All these things that made a lot of noise, essentially, that was able to transmit information to the, what are they called again?
The Iridians. Yeah.
The Iridians. And I thought that was really interesting. And also, what was it? The gesture that Rocky says is Iridian for goodbye or whatever. He had ridges on his arm, and by dragging his other hand across those ridges, he's making sounds that then communicate goodbye or whatever, or their equivalent of it. And I thought all of those details were really fascinating, interesting, and so imaginative, and just like really helped you immerse in what could actually be an alien species, rather than what Savon is talking about, which is the lazy thing of just making a carbon copy of humanoid people. This was actually like really well thought out and well presented, and gave us, I think that actually helped us embrace Rocky as a character even more, right? Like, you know, like we understand it as a being, as a thing that could exist. And so that's
they have
also
culture.
part of why
they have aesthetic. No, you're saying they have aesthetic and culture, and like the aesthetic and culture makes sense. Like this is a aesthetic. Like even to your point, Brian, even just the metallic ship and everything in their ship being earth based. It's glass, it's diamond, it's stone, it's gemstone. Like it's like I guess I never watched Ben 10. Y'all was too old for that. But point is, it's the people who had to come up with the fictional biology and shit was dope, especially for a non-water based life form, which was another kind of theme in the show, in the movie, right? Of like Ryan Gosling, his character believing in non-water based life. It seems like Rocky's people were exactly that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that stuff is from the book, like the way that their society functions, the way that their biology functions is from the book. I don't remember the thing about the eating. Do you remember the gag they did with Rocky eating some kind of goo or something like that, but like through his anus?
Man, I wish you remembered the book, Wes, so you could tell us about some of these differences. Luckily, I did do a little bit of homework last night after the movie.
Okay, nice. See some of the differences.
Yeah. So, and I want to, and maybe you might
tell us what were some of the differences.
So
that
at
you
my
Googled.
own at me and Brian's own mental health peril of me asking you this question.
Don't do it.
Look, Brian, at our own peril.
Don't do it.
When I was reading,
Wes's answer.
When I was reading reviews about the movie, one thing I heard was that obviously the book has a lot that happens, and they had to condense quite a bit just to make this movie work. And even then, the movie was still 2.5 hours, and they probably wanted it to be a longer cut. Were there any noticeable things that you felt like were condensed from the book to the movie, for better or for worse? Like, I'm not trying to tee you up to just be like, oh yeah, this sucked, but like, you feel like, how do you feel like they adapted it in terms of what they choose to keep and what they choose not to? What I read a lot was people saying a lot of the detailed science stuff they kind of had to gloss over because you just only got so much time in the movie to do, and you can't explain every tiny science thing. And they leaned more into Rocky and Grace's relationship as the way to endear you, and then the science explanation is kind of, you just kind of have to suspend your disbelief or trust what they're talking about.
I think
how
that's
did that land in terms of like the book? How did that feel in terms of the book from the show? Like, did the book feel more sciencey than the movie? Is the movie more feel good relations than science? Like, how does that? Does the book feel more sci-fi and the movie feel more like drama? Like, how did that land with you?
Buddy comedy.
Kind of on the slick, but in a good way.
Yeah, I think it was less of a buddy comedy in the book, but I do think I think really it was a good translation, right? Like, not everything that you do in the book is going to work on screen, and we've talked about that. Like, you can't just adapt it word for word and hope that it's going to work. Like, the screen has a different strength than the book has, right? And like the book, you can get a lot more internal, you can do a lot more things like that, and the movie you can do a lot more like external and showing things, but you don't get as much. It's a lot harder, it's a lot less effective just to be like, well, this is what I was thinking during this moment, and now I'm thinking this, like, you just that's not how we want to watch a movie. So I would say the one difference that I thought kind of illustrates what you're talking about is the process of them developing language. Actually, I thought was a lot cooler in the book. So the way that they learned how to communicate with each other felt more real, not realistic, but more like, oh, that's like a clever solution. And it took them a lot longer to do it than it did in the movie. In the movie, it was like maybe 5 minutes and they were able to like have some decent conversations. In the book, I felt like it took him a lot longer. It took him several days to like, and then weeks to really flesh out their ability to communicate. He did use a computer. He used some help, and kind of the idea was the same. But I want to say they started with like pi. Like, they started with math to really, I don't know that they started with like a clock or time and things like that. I think they started with like math. I think probably the movie decided, like, I don't know how many people are familiar with like math and why that would make sense to a scientist and an engineer.
He started with math in the movie. I remember that line. He said he started with like, is math is the universal language? Let's see if that's true or not. Like, that was something he definitely.
But then he resorted to a clock with numbers. Which
is not math. He started. I think in the book they figured out things around like pi and like common ratios that you would understand if you had been a spacefaring species. Like, he talked about, I think they figured out like relativity and stuff like that first. So like, that's sort of where they connected first in terms of like trying to figure out language, because he figured that's where they would know. And then then they could get into other things. I think they started with simple yes and no, things like that. So that aspect of how to communicate, I thought was a little bit more believable and intentional. In the book, I felt like or in the movie, I felt like they did a little more like, they just kind of magicked it, by the end. And like the fact that I don't remember in the book if Rocky needed a translation of some sort. Like in this one, Rocky understands English.
Yeah.
Right. He just talks.
That really bothered me in the movie. What was his side of trying to understand Ryan Gosling?
Yeah. Where I feel like in the books, the computer would speak for Ryan Gosling. Like, he would type it in at first, and then it would like send the sound to Rocky and or whatever. I don't even remember if it was sound based, but whatever they did, Rocky would have to interpret it through that. And so there was like a slowness to like how it does, and then they worked on iterating to make it faster and more immediate. And I think they did a little bit of showing that, and I think they probably just decided like this movie is not going to be around translation, right? The movie is let's get to the part of like them connecting and being like solving the problem. And so I think it was a fine choice. I just was like, why does Rocky understand English?
Yeah,
that's the part I didn't get.
Yeah, my interpretation in the theater was like they were setting up a foundation of like some basic translation, and then they did a pretty hefty time skip of him saying we've gotten to around 200 words. And exactly. I in the theater, I took that as like okay, they ain't got time to explain it, full translation. You kind of just have to accept that a time has passed. They're both smart enough to have figured some shit out. That's the kind of thing where I'm like, okay, I'm curious. Like, I know that the details of the book of that would be interesting, but I recognize that, like, even in the theater, I was like, oh, that definitely feels like a pacing choice, right? Thing, pacing choice. Because I know, doesn't The Martian go heavy into the science of what's going on? So I know the author is very big on explaining the science of the world. So I was like, oh man. But to your point, though, I'm glad that we didn't spend half the movie us breaking down the communication barrier, because that's one of those just like, actually, I kind of rather you tell than show. Like, I actually don't want this just to be a language.
Well, they showed it by showing you that like they had worked through the problem,
but they kept it tight. Foundation, math, letters. Oh, you can't see shit. Ridges. All right, get you a voice because that just works better for a movie. Exactly. I'm just curious if you felt drastically.
So I felt like that. I felt like that was one of the changes they made, probably because it was a movie and just to like fit into the time frame that I really enjoyed in the book, like going through that process with them. And it's one of the things I distinctly remember from the book is that part. Like, I kind of forgot about the, like, even that they used the astrophage as the engine. Like, I had forgotten about that, and like, what a great solution that they had come up with there. But just some cool stuff. And I don't remember, like, the part where they collect the bacteria with the chain, like they're fishing.
Yeah.
I don't actually remember if that was from the book. It probably was, but that was something that felt like, I felt like in the book they would have come up with something different than just, we're going to fly through an asteroid field or an energy field and then collect things with a fishing hook. But maybe that is what they did. And then, so I do think in general, I think it was a pretty good, adaptation of what the book felt like and was, and like making and doing a great job with like the flashback aspect of it. 'Cause that was in the book as well, where we don't know what's happening and he doesn't know what's happening in the beginning. So I thought like all of that stuff was really well done and well written, and then all the quips and jokes, I don't know if they're in the book, but they landed well on screen. So if they weren't in the book, great on them for adding it, and if it was in the book, great on them for making it work in a screen form.
I heard they dialed up the humor.
I guess we'll never know.
I heard they dialed up. This is why I did my homework, because I figured I heard that they dialed up the humor, which actually is a choice I agree with, because it does help with endearing us to Rocky a little bit better.
Well, that's what Jen said. So we went to, this is actually the first movie me and Jen have seen in a while together. And she said she really enjoyed it. She came away being like, oh, I really enjoyed that movie. Like I wasn't sure like what to expect, and I didn't know if I was going to like it, but she's like, I really liked that. That was a good movie. And she said that one of the things she liked the best was his relationship with Rocky. Like that to her was the heart of the story or the movie, and felt like the movie did a great job making you care about that. So
that makes sense. Because I guess they decided more humor to make Rocky, the relationship, just be, you can relate to Rocky more. You only got 2.5 hours, so you got to endear him to this character. And I guess anytime you spend doing long science explanations, it's time that you could be getting the audience to care about Rocky. Little
figurines. He built the figurines.
Yeah, and I guess the alternative is that you have a movie that explains all the science perfectly, but no one gives a damn about Rocky.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like the movie made sense, and that shit was boring, because what's this pet rock doing?
Yeah.
Well, actually,
slept with him on top of him.
The screenwriter Drew Goddard, who's like known for Cabin in the Woods or whatever. And he also wrote The Martian, right? So he wrote the screenplay for The Martian, right?
Nice.
And so one of the things that he said in an interview recently was that like he realized that on The Martian you don't have to shy away from the science, right? Like and if you recall that movie, that they go pretty deep on like how are they gonna get Mark Watley to survive on the planet? What are the logistics of that? How are they going to get a spaceship that can go all the way over there and come back around. And you remember like Childish Gambino has like a great cameo as like an engineering wizard to figure that part out. And so what Drew Goddard was saying, the screenwriter, was that like, hey, like if you treat the audience with respect and respect their ability to grasp the science, like it actually pays off. They'll be really into it. Um, and I bring that up because like I actually didn't think that the science was very much a big part of Project Hail Mary, even though like they try to like make it a big part of it, and I was expecting that, knowing it's an Andy Weir novel. It's kind of like The Martian, and so I'm expecting it to have more of that scientific heft. But I felt like Drew Goddard actually did the opposite in this movie, and that he papered over a lot of the actual science. He papered over like the communication issues, like you talked about, the whole astrophage thing. Like we knew enough about it to understand that there was a problem, but ultimately we don't fully grasp like why exactly are they going from planet to planet. Well, like what's going on Venus for them to get carbon dioxide, like. And so like the movie is like dropping little hints here and there about what these things could mean if they were actually grounded in science, but doesn't spend enough time to let us understand those things. And so it felt like you needed a lot of suspension of disbelief to basically allow the rest of this movie to work. And so I thought that was kind of a surprise for me coming into this, knowing who is involved from The Martian.
So then my follow-up question to you, Brian, is that like, and I don't disagree with you, like this movie definitely said us going into the trenches with the science is not what the core of this movie is about. I put in the chat, it's about relationships, humanity, bravery, those, what's important to you, all of that stuff. I know you said that they didn't focus on it as much, and you have to suspend your disbelief, which, by the way, I agree. There's a lot of like fake, I mean, most of this is pseudoscience, so you got to kind of just suspend your disbelief a little bit. I know that they ask you to do that. Were you able to do that? When they decided we're not gonna go detail explain every science thing, we're gonna trust that you can get the gist of it, accept what it is in the movie, and that doesn't take away from it. That worked for me. Did that work for you, or would you have liked them to? Because I was reading about how they just had a very, very long cut of the movie, and they were really
it was
struggling.
like 3 hours and 45 minutes or something.
And even me reading about the book, Wes, I learned, there's a lot of shit that happens that they absolutely had to condense. Like even just the whole the bacteria leaking out and eating the fuel. Like apparently that's a way bigger thing in the book. Them breeding the bacteria in the first place is way, way more fleshed out. But like, Brian, do you felt like you would have wanted more of that, or do you felt like I was able to suspend my disbelief enough to where the movie worked, and I'm glad they leaned more into the relationships of the characters than just the grounding all the science? Like, how'd you feel about it?
So I I thought it was a good movie, and I think like a lot of it has to do with Rocky, right? Like Rocky is so endearing, and you love the relationship between him and Grace, and you just like are so happy that it happened and that they survived and worked out in the end, and Rocky didn't die. But there were definitely like nagging questions throughout it, like that still persisted, and like even after watching it, and you just start thinking like, wait a minute, what exactly did we just see? Like with the whole carbon dioxide thing in the dark box, right? And like how that worked, and like how did that connect to these different planets or different suns, and like how is it infecting all these suns? What is it? What is the astrophage doing here and there? And then Wes, when you're describing what they actually had to go through for Rocky and Grace to communicate, I think that does sound really fascinating, and it makes me think that like for me the book probably sounds like the better version of this story. Like I would rather delve into that than being in what is kind of a lighthearted buddy, you know, unlike like a odd couple buddy situation in outer space that feels a little bit, it's a little bit hard to place, especially coming after The Martian that already existed, Interstellar, which also has lots of science in it, coming off the heels of that, and then now we have like this like
it's a feelings movie
version of Raw.
No, it's a
Yeah,
feelings
yeah.
movie in a science. It's a feelings movie in a science
yeah.
world, and like the
Which
science
is kind of a
secondary
throwback,
to the
right?
feelings.
Yeah,
Like
which is
Star
kind of a
Wars
throwback
almost.
to like an 80s or 90s type movie where the science is less important. I think that the issue here was that they introduced just enough of it where it makes you really curious. You're like, wait a minute, I thought we were gonna go deep on this stuff, and we're not. So I think for me that was a bit of an issue.
That makes sense.
I don't think they had to. Well, I don't know. I would come from the other perspective. Is like I don't think they had to. I think if you have some scientific background or knowledge, I think nothing they said was like false, right? So like you pick up on like, okay, yeah, that's what would have happened, and I get why like this is happening. And if you don't, like, that's not necessarily like the most important thing, and it doesn't provide the impetus for the story moving forward all the time. I think what they did show you really good was like the iterative process of like science and engineering of like you try something and see if it works, and you try this other thing and see if it works, and you try like you're always building your knowledge and understanding of what's happening through experimentation or through testing. And that's sort of what they did a good job showing, I think, as a process. And I think that works here too because
were they really testing on the spaceship though?
Because they don't know. Well, what do you mean? I mean, they don't know much about the astrophage. So like the why of what they're doing, I don't think they actually figured that out, right? Like they have some ideas around like how it's happening and like what's spurring it on, but I don't know that if they know like necessarily a why or like what motivates the astrophages. I thought the CO2 thing was really clear to me, and I thought they did a good job of explaining like different gases, different elements will have certain infrared spectra, and that's something you learn in like chemistry in high school, that like this
people
release
forgot
of
that
energy.
shit, Wes.
Yeah, this release.
Go ahead,
of
Wes.
energy.
Give us the science lesson.
Well, like just basically like all atoms, like when their electrons
Disprove
go
me
up
that
to a
science
certain
is
level
interesting.
and then come back down, the quantum levels, right? Like create really distinct bands of light, and so this particular wavelength of light is how they figured out like how the astrophage were trained to react to it, because it represented there was CO2 in that atmosphere, and so they were heading for CO2, and that allowed them to reproduce. And I mean, all life forms, they're evolved to reproduce, and so I don't think that they had to go necessarily more into depth than that. Like they weren't like thinking, right? The astrophages weren't like smart characters here. They were just following their own biology towards whatever was attracting them to the planet, which in this case was CO2.
But what like how is that happening across all these systems? The Petrova line situation, like
the Petrova line was just them, man. The Petrova line was them moving, and then the reason why it was a problem, like I think they introduced in the beginning with the kids, was that like the astrophages were siphoning the energy from the sun, which causes the stars to start dying, right? So like I mean, I don't know.
I felt like they did enough basic science to where you can at least follow what's going on without having to just be like, Bill Nye. But also, it feels like this is just if anything, this is just reinforcing that I want to check this book out, because these things that we could have gotten more of, I'm like, I see why someone want more of this.
Yeah.
But I also recognize I was in that movie for 2.5 hours, and so
a lot of it I feel like is in the book. They do.
But,
I think he does some good science in the book.
Yeah, 100. No, that's my point though. That's why it's like I can see why
like
the appeal.
Book, right?
It seems like you really should check out the book if you're into just like if you want to just learn more about this world that's been expanded to you. But on that same note, this knowing what I know about the book now a little bit, I'm kind of impressed with the movie adaptation, because I understand the things that seem to have been cut, and even if you don't fully agree, I get where it fits in their artistic vision of we're not about to have this be a science lesson movie and some shit that's already about to be 2.5 hours and stuff we already got to condense. And so I think it was a good call of adapting this movie from being more of the science with the relationship part next to it to leaning into like the science has to take a back seat because we only got two. I think they took full advantage of the movie medium to adapt this story, and that's why I want to talk a little bit about the shots. This movie had such good cinematography. I know we're talking about the story.
Oh, that's called a segue, ladies and gentlemen.
But the visuals, oh my goodness, just
I thought a segue has wheels.
Not this spaceship,
Never mind.
baby. We got astrophage. But like so many shots were just like beautiful. The first shot of him realizing he's in deep space and you just see the pan out to all the stars. Him getting to the planet and then seeing another effing ship that is at one point mirroring his exact movements. Just
that was hilarious.
The green planet, and he like in Ryan Gosling's just straight up grace, like, I'm having a moment right now, and I'm like, me too, bro. Me too. And Rocky's just like, this shit is whack. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like,
can't see it.
Those beautiful moments, but still interspersed with a little bit of humor. Even just the sound design of Rocky naming people and things, saying his wife's name. I was like, okay, I know it's a little bit funny because it's so long, but like, that is low key beautiful sound design. Even when it had all the red energy stuff that was around him, like, this movie might have cut back on the science, but oh my god, the visuals and just the way they did so many shots were just breathtaking. And like, those were the moments in the theater where I'm like, man, this is such a good effing movie to see at the movies in person, because you're just getting this visual eye candy. And we would be remiss if we didn't talk about just how beautiful this movie is.
Agreed. Lighting was really cool. I thought some of it was like a little bit unrealistic, and it was okay because it's like a movie and it doesn't have to be realistic all the time. So like I'm totally fine with the choice. I was just like thinking like there wouldn't be that much beautiful light coming into a spaceship at all points of the spaceship. Like usually a spaceship's pretty closed off, and like it's either going to have artificial light or you're going to have no light, and it's just going to be pretty dark. Like, so the fact that like every single shot Ryan Gosling was beautifully lit by the sun at a perfect 70-degree
Maybe he
angle.
just looks good in every source of lighting.
All right, but I don't want you to say nothing next movie when you're like, yo man, the lighting was so dark I couldn't see shit. I'm like, too bad, that was realistic. Damn it.
Yeah, no, it was fine to be a little bit unrealistic in that way because it made it look more gorgeous. But I was thinking in the movie, like, I don't think this would be lit like this all the time in the middle of space, this far from the sun or from any of the stars around him. Like, but it was fine.
That's in Ryan Gosling's contract.
This is what I'm
He's got to be lit really well.
Beautifully lighting only.
This is how you ruin it for people. No spaceship should have mirrors.
Mirrors?
Why these spaceships got mirrors? It's not a car. It's not a windshield. It's just space, and your shit should just be getting wrecked. But we need the shot of space, and sometimes that shit's cooler than just practical fiction engineering. There's one thing I also wanted to highlight that we haven't talked about a little bit. One of my favorite parts of this movie was the way that they cut the flashbacks in, and they're building up to all this conflict. And so throughout the movie, I don't know about y'all, but my opinion about Ryan Gosling's character Grace kept changing as we see more of these flashbacks. The movie opens up, I'm thinking, oh, he's a smart guy on this ship. He must be just some really hardworking scientist dude. Oh, that was an accident. Okay, he got to really step up. And then we see him immediately putting in work, handling shit. So you're like, oh, this dude's very smart and capable. And you see the flashbacks. It's like, oh, yeah, he's really smart. He helped even get all this shit off the ground. I'm like, oh, man, homeboy really doing some dope shit. Oh, he wasn't selected for the team? Huh. Okay, that's a little weird. I wonder what happens.
That part was like, oh, right. Okay.
But then there's the karaoke. Karaoke scene, and you see some people coupling up. So even in that moment, you kind of think, oh, he sees them coupled up, and maybe he's gonna step up and say, actually, no, I'll go. Which I don't know if y'all saw the same thing. I 100% interpret it as like, oh, he sees everybody being all nostalgic and stuff, and he's like, okay, maybe he'll say, you have something
I'm the one
to
that
live for.
Should go here.
I'll go.
Yeah.
And then that still didn't happen. I'm like, there's gotta be. I'm sitting next to Tony, like, yo, there's gotta be another shoe that's gonna drop about why the F this man is on this ship. And we're getting towards the end of the movie, and I still ain't got an answer. And then boom, and I'm like, oh, shit. And then you learn it's a measuring error, which is the most sad but realistic accident possible. And then you're thinking, okay, so the people died in a crazy accident. That's when he steps up to the plate. And then you learn, no, he's still like, yo, F this. And then for you to learn that at the end of the movie that they kidnapped my son and forced him into this situation where he ended up being the sole survivor, completely puts the rest of the movie in a completely different light.
Yeah.
Because at first you thought he was some guy who's just stepping up.
Soft lighting.
What you mean?
Nothing.
Well, what does that mean?
Go on.
He said a completely different light.
Yeah.
Whatever. But yeah, but it changed how you viewed the character, because it went from, oh man, this dude stepped up to the plate when the team needed him most, to like, they kidnapped my guy.
Yeah.
And he's being so even if always telling Rocky, I've made peace with it, I'm good with it. And you're thinking, oh, okay, good for you. And then he tells him, yo, I made all that shit up. And then you learn before, oh, he really meant that because he really got forced. It's not like he sacrificed, but he hasn't made peace with it. He got forced to do it and still had made peace with it. And that just completely changes just how you view his character and how you went through this whole movie, and even him not telling Rocky about how it was a one-way trip, and just that whole, I don't know, something about this, just that learning that he was actually coerced and forced in the first place was a very good shoe drop that really shifted how I viewed this character, because he was someone who really was just in the worst of
he's
circumstances,
not actually the
making
hero.
the best of it.
Yeah, he's not actually the hero that chose to be a hero.
He's not even the reluctant hero who did it, who's like, begrudgingly I'll do it. They just forced him. He was like just straight up kidnapped.
But,
that's such
his
weird...
amnesia, but
his
his
attempt
amnesia
to run
is
away was kind of silly though.
That was hilarious.
Look,
but
man,
his amnesia is what allows him to be heroic.
Look, what you want him to do? Look, you in the room and they say, hey, we about to sentence you to death on a ship, and you ain't got nowhere to run. You start figuring, look, you have a dog. How many times you have to take your pet to the vet? And it's just like
Brian's saying he should have fought his
jump
way
on
out.
some furniture.
Yeah, no, he should have fought his way out.
He tried.
No, but
They fucking
whooped
his ass.
Yeah, they would have for sure.
What an awful way to go.
I mean, they did, right? Basically, they manhandled.
They said it's really hit what we got. They blindside tackled my son on the way out the fence. He was home free.
Terry Tate, office linebacker style.
Took his ass out. I was like, dang, man. I would have went out.
Did you hear what I said about like him being heroic? Like his amnesia is what allows him to be heroic, right? Like he doesn't view himself as a heroic person in his former life. He can't imagine him in those shoes, but like the fact that he has none of this baggage because he can't remember what the hell he's there for anyway. He's like, well, I must have chose to be on this thing, and I must need to figure out a way to like solve this problem. And of course, like the order of his memories, influences that. But just like that's kind of a cool twist of like he wouldn't have done that had he actually known, like remembered what he was there for. And so maybe the quote unquote flaw of the drugs or the flaw of the process of putting them in cryo state actually is what enables him to do to save humanity, and send back the bacteria that are going to kill the astrophage.
Okay, so question.
Yeah, he has like a belief, he's got like a self narrative of him being kind of a failure, right? Of like people not taking him seriously.
Right.
They didn't take his dissertation seriously.
But he forgot all that.
And he, maybe he loves teaching, but probably he's burying this other part of himself because
it's all self-protection,
he doesn't
right?
believe that, he was good enough or worthy enough of anything. And that's part of why he doesn't want to step up to the plate and volunteer himself and has to get manhandled instead.
1,000%. Yeah.
So I think that, that's an interesting point that like he needed the amnesia to be able to let go of that narrative of himself.
Mm-hmm. So then my quick question for you, Wes, this is just like a quick clarity. Brian's question for you, clarity. Did y'all interpret it as whenever we got a flashback, that's us getting a memory back at the same time as Grace?
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Is that how I've interpreted that? That's kind
of how I interpreted it.
I wasn't sure if it's like he got his memories back towards the beginning and it just faded back, and then the flashbacks are us, the audience, learning what happened. But you're saying the flashbacks are Grace remembering stuff and we're remembering it alongside with them. So when he learned at the end that he didn't volunteer, that wasn't like us learning something that he already knew. This was us coming to that conclusion at the same time. So he remembered that at the end.
Yep.
Okay, that's helpful for me to understand.
I didn't read it as like the exact same moment, but I did read it as like he's getting it in fits and bursts.
Yeah,
I don't remember if that's how they did it in the book, but I feel like that's how it was. Like
but that would make more sense.
I think he was getting memories back as he went, or maybe they just told the story side by side. I can't remember.
That's my question, because that kind of but
I think this movie works better if you think of it as this is him getting his memories back.
Okay, that's helpful because that just helps me understand like just some of the.
Well, that's how I interpret it.
No, that interpretation makes sense because the movie established in the very beginning you will have some memory loss, and we know that it's a gradual process. I just didn't know how gradual. I wasn't sure if the gradual happened off screen in the early portions of the movie, or if he is
and then they were just showing us those moments as we went,
or if he consistently. But no, now that I think about it, he was digging through people's stuff even in the mid parts of the movies, and he's inferring what he can. So actually, now that I think back at it, he was actively learning more about himself as the movie went on, and that influences his decision, which is even better. Which actually, I'm glad you and Brian brought that up then, because that means that the amnesia actually helped him be the hero that he needed to be, which is insane. Man, what a character.
Would you Would you make the same call if you were the director, lady?
I mean, she had to make a Cecil level call that
Yep.
I would never want that job. Also, there's a really cruel joke of like Cecil saying, "Hey, this job, ages you up really hard," and it's wild because her actor and Ryan Gosling are the same age basically. So
Oh, okay.
maybe,
They made her look older.
I know. So maybe that job was stressing the shit out of her. I could not have done that, but I would never want that job in the first place. But
Yeah.
there needs to be someone who can make that call.
I
don't want to be the guy to have to look. We need Cecils in the world, but I never want to be our Cecil. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Gotcha. I want to say in the book, actually, that character is a man and is a little bit more fleshed out. Like it is actually more like a Cecil job. She's like, you're granted, or he, the character is granted some emergency powers from a bunch of different nations, and kind of acts like
Ava
they
Strott.
do. Yeah, acts like she does in the thing where it's just like she just has to make a call and be like, we're doing this, we're doing that. I'm telling you what to do. Here's what we're going with. But I think that like there's some distrust in the book from a lot of different people trying to figure out like, is this person actually like trying to do what they say they're going to do, or are they like actually just amassing power for like power's sake? I think there was a little bit more open question about that. I mean, eventually it becomes clear that they were really trying to do the right thing. And that they're willing to sort of, there's a character in Ender's Game that also has to sort of do this and grapples with the idea of like, I'm doing the thing that is best for humanity overall at any cost. And like, if that means that I have to step on toes or do something that's morally repugnant in order to get there, like I'm justified in doing this, and like, I'll deal with the consequences later and be judged later. And I think this character was more along that lines of like, they kind of went into the psychological side of that a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I heard the books were way more in depth about like the Earth politics and dealing with the global change, and there's a lot of big stuff that's just like it's cool, but they just couldn't fit it into this movie and the story they're trying to tell. So
yeah,
it feels like it's another.
Stuff,
it feels like it's like, again, I was just reading like something happens with Antarctica and something happens with Africa, and I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds dope as shit. Doesn't sound like it could fit into this movie, but if anything, this is all just motivating me to check out the book just to see. Okay, I like the world that they've introduced, even if the movie didn't have time to explore it all. This book is like, okay, well, the book is gonna let me do it. So that's I'm actually kind of pumped for that. Like this whole conversation is making me want to check out the book.
Well, I think and it's the right call because like from reading the book, that's not stuff I remember, right? But I do remember the stuff. Well, sort of. Once I saw it in the movie, I was like, oh yeah, that did happen. Like the stuff on the ship was like stuff that happened. Him ending up going back to save Rocky when he realized Rocky was in danger. That happened. I remember that being like a big moment. I actually, Ryan, I agree with you that on that part that was not super well explained. Like, why would the astrophages break the fuel lines or at all? Like that wasn't clear why they were eating the fuel lines and why that provided a problem.
They said that it evolved. They said that they evolved.
How we arrived at that conclusion.
They said that it evolved to break out of it, but that's one of those like, okay, clearly they just needed more time to. They clearly said, hey, man, we ain't got time to explain this shit, so we got to give this little short explanation, hope it's good enough.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's when
the other
it's
thing
like...
The other thing that I was confused by was why Ryan Gosling's character was still such a high-level, important astrophage scientist, even when... they reveal that like, oh, the team of scientists already knew the discovery that he had made and that his dissertation about non-water-based life forms wasn't applicable in this situation anyway. And so they appreciated his ingenuity anyway, and they kept him in the game. But like when they revealed that they already knew some of the stuff that he had discovered, it seemed clear that there are plenty of other people who were doing the research too, and who also could have been candidates to be sent on the spaceship. So like it was a little unclear to me why like he was the last person and like the most expert one and had to be the guy to be sent up into space against his own will.
I mean, the director says because he had sat in on all the strategic meetings, right? And it didn't seem like the other people had sat in on the strategic meetings.
Like, why was he the one sitting in on the strategic meetings?
So,
right?
I mean, I think because she liked him and she was like,
That's it. Just because she liked him?
Discover cool things. I don't know. Sav, did you have a different take on that?
No. So actually, I think I actually have an answer for it. So I think it's a two-parter, and some of this has to do with like no, it's a two-parter. So one, I think it's that. Regardless, Brian, he was considered to be just like more knowledgeable than everybody else. Take it for what it's worth. But I think the bigger thing, and this is one of those I was reading about the book differences to see like if there are any major shifts. One detail that the movie just never went into is that, and this might explain why. Well, actually, it makes perfect sense. There was a genetic component of who would be compatible for the deep space mission. That was also a component of things.
I think that's
like I don't want to go more into it, like because I don't want to like I can't speak on it. I only like read a little bit of cursory
I don't even
stuff.
remember that. So.
But the gist I understood, Brian, was that it wasn't just that he was one of their only experts in the world.
He was young and fit and good looking.
Not like that. Like an actual like something to do with just genetic being able to survive the trip, some shit like that. I'm not 100% because I got to read. I don't know the details, but there was basically a science equivalent of like, hey, some people's bodies with a genetic constitution can't even survive the trip, and he's one of the only people who has like the physical constitution to survive the trip, and after the accident has the skill set to do it. So it's really like I don't know. I'm not saying that's the best answer, but there was more to it of just, why him? There was like no one else can physically survive the trip, and he's the only person with the astrophage experience, and their other redundant experts all got blown up. So I don't know if that's the best explanation, but I think this is again one of those like the book probably. It almost feels like it's better to read the book than to watch the movie. That because the book is going to answer questions about the movie that you would have that doesn't work the other way. Because that's a very good question, Brian, and like the book gives you a great answer.
Glossed over. Yeah,
and it's like, okay, I get why. And it's like one of those, I get why that can't be a whole thing you spend time on, but dang, that's an important little detail that just fleshes out how this shit works. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to read. This is all just saying I need to read this book. That's really my biggest takeaway is that questions I didn't even know I had will just be fleshed out and answered in a really, like even the Antarctica being clearly frozen over in the ocean. I'm like, okay, cool. Clearly the book is gonna go more into that. They just ain't got time because that shit looked, that shot was dope of them driving through the frozen.
I assumed it was because the sun was losing its heat.
No, it was. It was.
Everything was freezing over?
No, 100% it was that because enough time has passed to where there's still, because this was a long game thing, right? Of like, enough time has passed to where the Earth is still cooling, but they haven't gotten to the point of no return because he was able to give them a solution, but they still, and apparently, like I said, the books go into that too of like they have to do some really drastic shit on Earth in order to even implement the plan of the stuff that Grace gave them. But it's a lot of science and logistics that's probably just, again, like we ain't got another 20 minutes of movie to explain how they terraformed Africa or some shit.
I don't know. I still disagree. I think like to me it made enough sense that I was like, you'd have to put that guy on the ship. Like the fact that he was the only one in the movie that we saw do the astrophage stuff, and that he was constantly like working on the astrophage throughout that time that he was on the ship or the base or wherever he was in the lab. And he was the one that kept asking like the right next question. And it felt like that led her to trust that like if something went wrong or if there was a challenge or whatever, that he would be a great person to like solve the next part of the question, right? Because you can't predict everything that's going to happen on a mission. And I think her intuition was this is a person who doesn't like that understands like you can solve a problem through asking questions and testing and and like that's what was going to be needed on this trip or on this mission to wherever where he'd have zero support, right? He'd have to be the entire question and solution, and he proved himself to be good at that particular skill set. So that's how I interpreted like she knew that he was the one that she needed to choose to go on this mission, even without the genetic explanation that might have been in the book.
Yeah. And also, Brian, the last thing on that is that they did say they could have gotten somebody else, but they would have had to push their timelines back, and they were unwilling to do that. So some of it was like, we could find someone different, but
you're here.
But we have very small timelines. We're not about to shift these timelines. And now that the pool is shrunk so hard, you're the only one who's trained. Even then, he's not super, super trained, but he's the best trained that they got, the only expert. So, like, not the perfect answer, but they at least tried to say, like, okay, time is this is also a race against time movie too, so there's no just let's twiddle our thumbs and figure out the best solution. We gotta just go with the whole thing in the movie was that it's Project Hail Mary, it's an imperfect plan. All of the shit of like, why don't they consider this? I'm like, they did, it just ain't got no effing time.
That works.
So,
all right, well, overall, what are we thinking about this movie? How would you rate it? I'm going 4.5 thumbs up downs out of 5.
That was funny. Man, Wes, all right.
Missed my bumps.
Wes, you in your bag on some of your little puns and little things. You cooking today. I see you, baby.
All right. Sav, what's your rating on this one?
Honestly, I'm gonna echo what you had. 4.5 out of 5.
Nice. I loved it. I enjoyed it.
No,
I'd watch it again.
I don't have any real complaints. The only real complaint now, as we talking about, is that like clearly there's
you want to know more.
There's more that they clearly had to just cut shit to just
Tell
make it
us
work as a
more.
movie. But that's not a real complaint. I enjoyed the movie. I would recommend this to most folks. This is one of the
think
best
it's a real
blind
complaint.
movies I've seen in forever. Like,
I think it's a real complaint. It's a valid complaint, but I also feel like in this movie, the things that they cut weren't necessarily things that you're like, oh man, that had to be in there. Like, I felt like they made the right choices for the most part around like what to do that. Brian, what are you rating this?
I'm giving it a 79 amaze out of 100 amaze.
Oh,
a
little lower.
I think
he's grandpa.
I think this is a really good movie, and it made watching it in the theater made me think like, oh yeah, this is like one of those movies that, you know, if TNT and TBS were ever still around,
Oh,
like,
what?
you know, and it was, you know, it's like one of those movies. Yeah, like and you'd like flick it on and you'd be totally down to watch it. Is definitely a fun ride.
Yeah.
So
at least 80.
I think for me,
you gotta give it an 80 if you're gonna rewatch it. You'd be willing to rewatch it.
The thing that I knock it for is, you know, is like
Boo.
how much Ryan Gosling shtick can you?
It's his best
withstand?
role.
And
My favorite Ryan Gosling
like,
movie.
who cares if it's his best role when there are other actors out there? And the other thing is like, you know, if I'm gonna watch this movie, like maybe I prefer to just watch The Martian, right? Or like maybe I prefer to watch one of those other space movies, and maybe that can be an unfair criticism sometimes, but like, you know, we don't watch these things in a vacuum.
Yeah.
So
But, like, I feel like
it's still really good.
I
It's
feel
still
like you
really
could
good.
also pick your nits with The Martian.
Brian wants math in his science. This is Brian. This is
Yes,
science with
I do.
feelings, not science with math.
If
Take
you're gonna
that
give
shit
me
to the
science,
classroom.
or you're gonna hint at science, give me the science.
This is
Really?
This
It's
is
interesting.
this is
'Cause
Bill
I feel
Nye,
like Brian is
not
usually
Neil
like,
deGrasse
I don't
Tyson.
care
Okay.
about that shit.
No, I'm saying this is Bill Nye science, not Neil deGrasse Tyson science. God damn it.
Yeah.
That's the best. Is that
I
the best
love
way?
both
Is
those
that the
guys.
best? Is that the best like way to
FYI.
describe like the book versus movie, Martian versus this? Like one is Bill Nye, it's more fun, chill. We just kind of enjoying ourselves while learning, and the other is Neil deGrasse Tyson of like, nah, man, we about to be as particular and pedantic as petty as possible because we're gonna be right.
Well, yeah. Well, Neil deGrasse
Yeah.
Tyson is his own thing because he's also right. Like he makes it more accessible in public. Like he doesn't actually go into the like details of the math.
You know,
as some others.
he doesn't make it very accessible.
No.
I'll be listening to that shit and I'm like, you gotta.
But he doesn't. Well, whatever. Yeah. I mean, like I feel like it's clear he understands the math. He just doesn't like do the math in front of you.
Yeah,
He just
Brian
kinda
wants
summarizes
receipts.
it.
Brian wants you to show your
Yeah,
work.
Ryan wants you to show the math, show the work.
Yeah.
We gotta give him the other cut where it's just a bunch
Show
of
me that
scientists doing
this makes
calculations.
sense.
This is
Does
also
this
like
make sense?
this is okay, but this is also a little bit, you know, like I feel like disingenuous in the fact that like you have access to the book, which like will show more of the math and the science behind it, but you're not going to read it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm not into
Brian?
this kind of novel, to be honest with you.
Brian said,
See,
"I want
so,
you
like,
to." No, Brian said, "Take the math shit out the book and put it in the movie because I ain't trying to read that shit."
Yeah.
Fair enough. He didn't want the math in there.
The Martian is the perfect counterexample.
This is funny. This is me
They
and
didn't do a ton
Wes.
of
This is
math.
me and Wes just looking at Brian like,
Yeah. I don't think they did a ton of math in The Martian. I think you're remembering that movie a
they
little
had
differently.
a lot of scientific concepts that they presented, which were key parts of the plot in that movie.
and that's fire. So I'll
But that
watch
was
The
in this
Martian
one
if
too,
I
right?
want math, and I'll watch
they
this if I
talked
want
about-
feelings and vibes.
They talked about like the
This
math.
one was very much about vibes.
Hell yeah, and the
this is-
vibes
this is
were
a-
and the
This is
vibes
a
were
buddy
immaculate.
film. Yeah,
The
and the
vibes were
vibes were great.
immaculate.
The vibes were great.
I don't know. I feel like you're over indexing how much math was in The Martian and under indexing how much it was here. Like they had to do the math.
Well, Wes,
on,
if
like,
you
how
remember
much
the books, you can have
astrophage-
receipts to argue against this man.
I know. I wish I did. But
You could be
it doesn't
dunking on
mean
him
in the
right
movie,
now.
I'm saying in the movie there's math. Like they have to talk about like how much astrophage they needed and why they needed that much math. They talked about the rate at which they were like replicating. They talked about like all this stuff and like they talked about like the spectral bands, right? The CO2. That's like not a concept that everybody's familiar with, so they had to explain it. They talked about like how the acceleration and stuff was like playing a role in things, how there was no communication with Earth that was meaningful. They talked about like they did the same calculation around travel time, like the 116 years or whatever it was going to take him.
Brian ain't trying to hit that shit.
I mean, but that was there was plenty of like math that was like integral to the story.
What was this movie really about?
No,
it's about him and Rocky.
No,
like
yeah, but I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like a completely.
It's just a ratio. It's like one was 60-40. It's like 60. Both was 60-40 different directions versus science and feelings. One was more 60-40.
I want to know.
Other was 60-40.
Did the book end in the same way where he's on Iridia teaching a class of
that's
little
right.
Rockies?
That was so
I couldn't remember. I know he went to Iridia. I thought in the book he went back to Earth.
Damn it, Wes! And you knew we were talking about this podcast. You knew we were talking
about
this
book.
episode.
I'll go.
You own
I own the book. I'll go read it.
To us to watch the movie, but you can't give us key details.
Read
from the
it
book
again
that you
and
read.
let us know a year from now.
He gonna forget a year from now because we.
No,
well,
it's gonna take him that long to read it.
Oh, I'm a fast reader. Well, maybe not. It depends when I start it. Once I start it, it's fast.
Nah, I'm mad at you, Wes, because you just have this repository of knowledge that you just don't use.
It's just in there. I just can't get to it. It's in there. Well, Savon, you should read the book too.
I am. Oh no, I'm fully like gonna read the book. This movie plus the details that they took out. I'm fully all on board.
I still got to get through Carl first. Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Still reading book 1?
Still on book 1, yeah.
All right.
I'm like 2/3 of the way through that one. All right, friends. We're out of here. Hit us up on @confidently_pod on Instagram. We'll put up a post on this. And I hope you guys enjoyed the movie because I really enjoyed it. I don't know what Savon is. I can't watch right now.
He's doing the Macarena.
I'm like, oh, is that what it is? I'm just like very confused and distracted. This has been the worst ending to a show we've ever had. Friends, I'm sorry about that. We'll do better next time. We'll see you later. It was awesome. The movie was awesome. Go see it. Don't listen to Brian. He's wrong.
Go see it. That movie was fire.
I said it's good.
Brian did say it was good. No, Brian said it was good.
Yeah, but he gave it a 79, even though he would rewatch it.
Wes, for all the wild shit you didn't say, I'm gonna let Brian live. It was a good movie.
Fair enough.
Go back on my scores. I'm consistent with what I'm rating shit. So
how do you?
I leave a lot of space for the best stuff.
He's a real Academy Award. I didn't watch that shit, so I'm gonna just give it a 79.
Check me out on Letterboxd. That's where the real shit is at.
Brian's the Shaquille O'Neal of just never heard of him.
What I'm struggling with is for you to say it was a really fun movie, a good movie, enjoyable, and then to be
why
like
can't
79.
it be a 79?
Brian,
that's a high score, my
I feel
friend.
like that's 80.
That's a high score.
Brian,
79 is high.
We
for
troll
you?
a lot here, but I do understand exactly like what you
that's
are getting at with the movie. Like I completely understand.
90 is very different.
Okay.
Also,
like
Brian's hard.
85 is going to be very different.
Also, Brian's harder to impress. You just got to accept that some people. I know I am easier to impress than y'all. I am fully aware for years that like my bar is much lower than y'all's. So what's okay with Brian being a critic?
I went in smooth brain on this one. I enjoyed it. I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes
and that is my point. That's my point.
Brian didn't want a smooth brain. Brian wanted to do some fucking math.
You just said it.
Yeah.
You just said it. That's why it's a 79. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's
and I
still,
agree.
it can still be good.
Yeah.
It can still be good.
Yeah, it's a smooth brain
just
movie. Just
because I disagree with you doesn't mean it's bad.
Fight.
No, but I agree with you in that, like, this is not Interstellar, right? Interstellar tried to really play with, like, the mechanics of how would different dimensional and quantum mechanics actually play a role in
I'm about to get
in a
some
story.
What? Yeah, go ahead, Wes.
I'm going to get me
going.
Some food. But
and this podcast will end in another 3 hours.
All
Enjoy.
Right. Fuck you guys. All right. Bye.
No, you all pressed though, and it's funny. I'll let y'all.
Later.